So this week's Zohar, Parsha Teitzei, Zohar Kodesh, Parsha Teitzei is the Rai Mamna. So this week, Teitzei talks about, the beginning of Parsha Teitzei talks about the idea of fast hire, the concept of a soldier that goes out to battle, and the idea of that the soldier goes out to battle and desires a captive woman. And there's a whole conversation that the Torah talks about exactly what's this relationship and whether you can marry this woman. And there's a very deep understanding that this is connected with souls that are connected to you and things that come into your life. Certainly things that apparently you don't chase after, but they show up in your life, are part of your soul elevation. And what does it mean to be engaged with this reality? There's a famous Or Chaim HaKadosh on this. So the pasuk speaks of the woman that she should take off her garments of her captivity, and she should grow her nails or cut her nails, and for a period of time, and she should wail for 30 days. And Torah describes this relationship, and whether afterwards, after she takes off the garments, which symbolically, like the Baal Shem HaKadosh writes, the idea of taking off the garments means taking off the externality, stripping oneself from the external story, from the external narrative, and getting to the root of things, and whether to see whether the person is really still connected, the soldier is really connected to this woman, and then maybe to pursue this relationship. And that's another conversation. But in the Zohar Kodesh speaks about Esther. That's the way the Zohar starts. At the beginning of Parsha Teitzei, the Zohar talks about Esther. That Esther, famously, Chazal say that Esther was married. Lebitoy is Leishtoi, that Esther was married to Mordechai. In the story of Purim, Esther Amalka, the queen, originally was married to Mordechai. And the Gemara says that even though she had relationships with Achashverosh, physical intimacy with Achashverosh, she was also intimate with Mordechai, which technically is not allowed, of course. That means it was adultery, and she's a married woman, and it's beratzin, so therefore she couldn't be in a relationship with Mordechai any longer, even if it's boinus. It could be Yarav Yaver. So the Gemara actually says, the Gemara has a conversation about this as well, the Gemara in Sanhedrin, and the Gemara says a phrase. The Gemara says that Esther karka olam, that Esther, in this relationship between a male and a female, that the woman Esther was like earth, just like earth, which means that she was just lying there, literally, and therefore there was no involvement on her part, and therefore she was allowed. So that's the conversation. But the Zohar has an interesting interpretation that's quite famous, and unfortunately, sadly, some people have seen the Zohar, spoken about the Zohar, and Chalila, because of this, they have almost mocked, if you wish, things that it say in the Zohar Kodesh, because it sounds very outlandish or very extraordinary. So I want to explain a little bit what the Zohar is. So the Zohar says like this, that when Esther was intimate with Achashverosh, so the Zohar says, Shchinta is estiras lo ma'achashverosh. The Shechina hid the Esther from Achashverosh, from the king. V'yorev l'sheda b'asra. And instead, there was a shed, there was a demon that was in her place, that has the same image like her. And then Esther remained in a pure state, and there was a demon, there was a shed, like a negative angel, that was sent in her place. And when Mordechai was intimate with Esther, so the Zohar Kodesh says, he wasn't intimate with Esther herself, he was intimate with this shed, with this demon that looked like Esther. And this is what brings down from the Teitzei, that there is in Esther, she would place a shed, this demon in her place, and that's the klipas noga. So what does this mean? To understand what this actually means, so there's one way to understand it, is that this is connected with another idea, which is called that there's two levels of the body, because Mordechai was actually Achashverosh was actually intimate with somebody, with this particular woman, but the Zohar says this woman was not Esther herself, but it was her shed. It was her dark side, or her demon. What does this mean? So on one level, this could mean that there is this concept that the Zohar mentions, and spoken about in great length in the Teitzei and Nishmas Chaim. The idea is that there is a guf dak and a guf gas, that there is a ethereal body, and there's a double image of the body, a more dense body and a more ethereal body. And there's a concept that there's a possibility of some type of astral projection where you can project your guf gas, your guf dak, your more ethereal body, into another location, the bi-location. That's one thing, and that could be explored, but that's one way of understanding it. But we're not going to get into that. That's a whole other length of understanding. Let's understand this a little bit differently. What is the Zohar saying on a more pneumistic level? That when a person is involved with anything, let's not talk about intimacy, because essentially everything in this world has a possibility of yichud, a possibility of intimacy. And everything that we're engaged with, there is a possibility of intimacy. So intimacy, true intimacy, and the way the Zohar explains this idea of intimacy, and the Ramban in Igeres HaKodesh, in the Ramban in this Holy Epistle writes, true level of intimacy means, and we're not only talking about physical intimacy on a literal level, but any type of intimacy means when you're fully engaged in the present moment that's occurring. You're fully present in this experience. When not only is your body present in an experience, but also your mind and your heart and your desire is all present. There is only one focus. You're completely being in that place. This is the ultimate idea of yichud, the ultimate idea of unification is, and any type of intimacy is when you're fully present in the experience that you're having. That it's not that only I'm physically present in the experience, but my mind is engaged in someplace else, or my heart is in another place, or my desire is in a third place. But to be truly intimate on the holiest way, like the Zohar says, is when we're intimate on all levels of our being, that the entirety of self is present in this location. And this is also relevant to the physical intimacy as well. When our mind is fully engaged and present in the act that we're doing, and our heart and our feelings and our emotions and our desire and everything is directed towards the other person that we're being intimate with, then that's a holy level of intimacy. That's a level of kedusha. The opposite of that is when the mind, God forbid, is thinking of other people, God forbid, or is just wandering in a different location, and that could be a bentamora, that could be even a child that's born out of that, or the fruit that's born out of that relationship could be something that's off the mark, can be something that is not fully present. The Megala Mukis and others explain that's the idea of Reuven and the tribe, the Shevet Reuven and the Shevet of Gad, because they were born in a state on a high level, according to Yaakov, which is from Yaakov Avinu, which is from the Merkava, and of course from the Avos. But when Yaakov was together with Leah, in his mind he was together with Rachel, because in the morning he says Vihini Leah, and she realized Leah. So therefore there was some type of disalignment, and because of this disalignment, it also gave birth to Reuven, who had a certain level of disalignment, of course on the level of Shiftika, on the highest level of the Shvatim, of the tribes. But there was some type of level of disalignment, which is that Reuven is always trying to do the right thing, but is always a little bit off the mark, again on his level. That's why Chazal say Reuven's pasach b'tshuva. That's the first one that did tshuva. The idea that he's off the mark because he wanted to save his brother by the sale of Yosef, but he missed that. He wants to do the right thing with Bilma Yitzur Aviv when he wants to change the beds of his father, but he does the wrong thing. There's always a little mark, and then eventually Reuven is on the other side of the river, on the other side of the Jordan of the Yarden, which means that he's not in Eretz Yisrael. He's almost in Eretz Yisrael, but he's not exactly there. There's something a little bit off. Same thing also with God, the same, because it represents the same quality. Because God is also that that God really was born from also a type of relationship similar to Leah and Reuven. But the point is that when we are fully engaged, again, in any type of intimacy, any type of experience that we're experiencing in life, when we're fully present, fully there, both our physical selves and our emotional selves and our mental selves and our spiritual selves are fully engaged in this thing, that becomes a holy level of intimacy. If not, then it could be Masechah Ritzuim or Kavanas Ritzuya, Masechah Ein Ritzuya, or Masechah Ritzuim, Kavanas Ein Ritzuya. It could be sometimes that there's something not aligned. Now let's understand this, what the Zohar is saying on a type of inward level, a more pneumistic level. What does it mean that Esther sent her shed, her body double, or her demon? What is a shed? What is the definition of a shed? Now there's many different understandings of this. But the basic understanding is that it's an incomplete being. It's an incomplete energy or an incomplete life. That's why it's Ben Hashmash. It's created in the in-between, in the twilight zone. It's something that's incomplete. The incompletion of something. It's not fully a developed human being and it's not fully an angel. It's something that's an incomplete reality, which inwardly means that when a person divests their mind from an action that they're doing, but Esther was doing this intentionally because she didn't want to be intimate with Achashverosh on a physical level. So what she did was, what the Zohar is saying, she sent only karka olam, she sent only her body. She divested her consciousness and her mind and her heart and her desire to be in another place, that I don't want to be in this place. And what remained of Esther in this physical state of intimacy with Achashverosh, what remained of her was only the karka, was only the external, was only the flesh, was only was only her shed, was only her double. It wasn't her full sense of self. So on a deep level, what the Zohar is saying is not that there was some type of Esther was in one location, physically in one location, and her body was in another location, but Esther was in one location only. Her physical body was in one location, but her mind, and the place where a person's mind, that's where they're really present, and her heart and her desire was in a completely different location. So what was left was only her shed, was only her demon, so to speak, her karka olam, only the physical part of herself remains. This is on a negative side, of course. And in this context, it's positive, but it's a negative side because you're saying that the person's not fully present. And you have a choice whether you're going to be fully present in an experience. And if you're just going through the motions and your body is present there, then only your demon is there, your shed is there, you're not really there. And of course, we have to understand that this is also, of course, we have to understand this on a positive way. That in order for us to truly be engaged in life and truly be present in this world in a healthy and a holy way, in a way that we're fully present for other people, and fully present to be engaged with the experience that we're having in this world, it's not enough to physically be in this experience. Sometimes we need to. Sometimes we have to divest our consciousness and divest our mind, divest our heart to be in a different place because we're going something that's maybe necessarily could be something that's negative. But if we truly are involved in a positive thing, let's say you're doing a mitzvah or you're having an encounter with somebody and you're speaking to another person. The Zohar is saying that sometimes you can speak to another person, but you're not really there. Your shed is there. Your demon is only experiencing this other person. That's a negative thing. In order for us to truly be someplace, we have to be there fully with our mind, our heart, and our feelings and experience, and everything has to be present in the body as well, and experience this true intimacy. And that's the positive side, and that's one way to understand the Zohar of sometimes the serious, similar. Sometimes we have to separate. Sometimes we have to divest for the purpose of some type of elevation. Sometimes we have to let go of the garments And sometimes we have to make sure that our mind is in a different location if we're being someplace. But in terms of intimacy, in terms of holy things, in terms of times that we want to be fully present, and certainly times that the highest level of Kedusha, the highest level of sanctity, like the Ramban writes, in the right time, in the right place, with the right person, in a holy marriage can be, in Kedushin can be the highest level of connection, the highest level of yichud, the highest level of unification, and we have to be fully present, and not, God forbid, just our shed, our demon. Have a wonderful Shabbos.